In this video, I'll show you how we can set up our Lightroom preferences before we begin with importing photos. To do that, let's go to the Edit. If you are on PC or if you are on Mac, just choose the Lightroom button on the top menu. And let's go to Preferences. As you can see, there is a lot of preferences. I'll try to explain it to you the fastest as I can. The first, we can choose the language in which we work. By the default, this is English. After that, you can switch off the splash screen during startup. When you launch Lightroom, you see the splash screen appears, so you can just turn it off. And this check mark means that Lightroom will automatically check for updates and ask you if you want to install them. Next, we choose the default catalog, which is loading while you start Lightroom. You can choose your new catalog. By now, this is Udemy catalog. Or you can choose to load most recent catalog or prompt when you start Lightroom. I recommend you to choose load the most recent catalog. After that, let's move to the import options. This checkmark means when you insert your card reader to your computer, when you connect it, Lightroom will start up and ask you to import photos. I recommend you to turn it off because sometimes it is so annoying and you just don't want to do that. But if you want, you can check it up. The next is to show Add Photos screen. That means when you connect card reader to your computer, Lightroom will automatically show you the Add Photos screen, about which we will talk in the next lessons. Next, you can choose select the current or previous import collection during import. It means like when you imported some images before, Lightroom can just show you this current and previous import preview. The next check marks means ignore camera generated folder names. I recommend you to leave it as is, and Lightroom will not ignore these camera-generated folder names. And this last, treat JPEG next to RAW files as separate photos means that if you have camera RAW file and the JPEG one, Lightroom will show it as two separate files. But if you don't check it, Lightroom will show these photos, this same but different format photos, as one single file. Here in completion sounds, you can turn on or off some sound effects after some kind of job is completed. I recommend you just use no sound so it will not disturb you. You can also reset all warning dialogues, and here in this button go to catalog settings tab. We can go to catalog settings, but let's wait for a sec and I'll show it a little bit later. Now let's move to the presets tab. Here in presets tab we can just choose the default develop settings like apply auto tone, apply auto mix, make defaults, and make defaults specific to camera serial number and ISO. I recommend just not check these marks except the second one. The second check mark will auto convert your image to black and white, and Lightroom do it really nice. And you can also reset all the default develop settings. Next, the location of your catalog and presets folder. I recommend you to store presets with your catalog. It will appear in the same folder where your catalog is situated on your hard drive, and you will never mess up finding some Lightroom files or presets or other stuff Lightroom creates for you. And also you can click here just to see where it is situated, and it shows you your default Lightroom catalog, which is named Udemy catalog folder I showed you in the previous lesson. Next tab, it just gives us an opportunity to restore all defaults, like restore presets, restore color labels, and so on. If you change something inside Lightroom in the develop or library model, here you can just reset it to its default settings. Let's move to other tab. This is external editing. Here we can choose the file format for editing in external programs like Photoshop, and by default you need to use TIFF, ProPhoto RGB, 16-bit, and resolution can be 240 with a zip compression. This is the best and recommended choice for preserving color details from Lightroom, as Lightroom says here. And also you can create some additional preferences for external editors, not for Photoshop, if you use some other. Also, here is the stacking options like stack with original, I recommend you to turn it on. It means that it will stack all photos in one stack with the original one. And here you can edit the external file name. When you edit some photos and Lightroom save it to this file format like TIFF, it will give some custom name. You can choose name like this, untitled 12 of 10, or some other preferences, or you can go to edit, and here in edit you can use these rules to create your own naming for files and click done. I'm okay with this, and let's move further. Let's go to file handling. In file handling, actually you don't need to change anything. This is the import DNG creation preference, and by default it's set OK, the latest camera raw, and you can just update the JPEG preview to full size. If you have fast computer, it will be okay, but if your computer slows down, sometimes you can check the medium size or none, and it will work faster. Also, you can embed fast load data. I recommend you to check this. And the embed original raw file, this check mark, you can check it off. And you can turn off the embed original raw file, but by default it's set like this. The import DNG creation, it means that if you want to store your files in DNG, you can use these settings. But I will not teach you to do that, because to work with raw files or with JPEG is much more easier. Next, let's move to reading metadata. We shouldn't change here anything except the locations for our cache settings, for camera raw cache and for video cache. You can choose the folder where you want your cache to be stored. I recommend you to use the separate hard drive for it, or you can store it anywhere. Just don't forget to purge cache from time to time to free up your space on hard drive. And the same rule applies to video cache settings. Now let's move to interface. Here we can change like our default panels. We can add the flourishes like that. If you want it to be more fancy, you can change the font size if you want your letters to be bigger. Also, we can set how dark or bright our theme of Lightroom looks like. We can just set it to some kind of dim level, like 70% or 50%. Actually, these lights out dialog boxes, they apply when you are working with lights out mode. I will show you it in the next lessons. We can choose the background behind our photos. And after that, let's move to the film strip. Here in film strip, we can show badges or ignore clicks on badges. I also show you it in the next lessons. And the tweaks, if I check this box, zoom click point to center, it will zoom where I click my mouse to center that point like the center of the image. This is really handy, so I recommend you to check this box. And use system preference for font smoothing. I don't actually use it, but you can try if you have some font issues. Next, let's go to performance. Here we can use our graphics processor to speed up our workflow. I recommend you to check this box. And you can join your account, your Lightroom mobile account, to sync your Lightroom and Lightroom mobile if you want to. And the last one is proxy server settings. If you're using your proxy, you can just type here your username and password. That's it for settings. As you can see, we hadn't changed a lot, but now you know what they mean and how to use them. And now let's move to catalog settings. I'll talk about the settings in the next video.